Hello and welcome back to Kariso. Today we're going to be talking about antibiotics. We'll take this step by step, but stay with me. In the end, I guarantee you'll understand what antibiotics are and why they are completely useless against viruses. First of all, we need to understand what antibiotics are. Antibiotics are basically medicines which are used to either inhibit or completely destroy microorganisms. Microorganisms means organisms which are too small that we cannot see with our naked eye. And in this particular case, we are talking about bacteria. There are many different kinds of microorganisms out there. Two which concerns us today are bacteria and viruses. So what are the difference between bacteria and viruses? Bacteria are living organisms. Viruses are not living organisms. Bacteria are organisms which can generate their own energy, make their own food. They can move, they can reproduce. Therefore, they can live in many different places, in the soil, in the water, on animals, on our skin, in our hair, and in our body. That's why we have good bacteria and bad bacteria. But a virus can only grow and replicate inside the host cell which they infect. When we find viruses outside the body, outside the host, it's usually in its dormant form. In order for them to live, they need to hijack the biochemical activity of a living cell. That means only once they infect a host, they go inside the cell, only then they can start reproducing. An infection by a bacteria is usually localized, means it's confined to that one particular area. If you fall down and you scrape your knee and you have pus coming out of your knee, it means that place is infected by a bacteria and it's just localized there. You won't get like fever and other symptoms which indicates that it has already penetrated the blood. Although it is entirely possible, if an infection by a bacteria is not contained properly, not treated properly, it could develop into a systemic infection. Systemic meaning the whole body is now infected. The bacteria has managed to spread everywhere. A viral infection, however, is usually systemic. This is because once the virus cell enters the host cell, let's say it's a human being, it enters one cell, it'll stay inside the cell and replicate into thousands and thousands and then break free from that one cell and infect every other neighboring cell around it. Examples of bacterial infection that we know which is common are like pneumonia, TB, tuberculosis, TB, tetanus, and even food poisoning, the usual food poisoning we get if we ate something wrong. That is due to bacteria. Examples of viruses which are common are influenza virus, measles, polio, HIV/AIDS virus, and the most recent, most famous COVID-19 is also a virus. Now that we've already understood the difference between bacteria and viruses, now let's understand antibiotics. There are two kinds of antibiotics. They are called either bacteriostatic or bactericidal. The way to understand this is think of countries going to war. Bactericidal antibiotics are the usual way countries go to war. So if country A doesn't like country B, they just send all their tanks over, their planes, their nuclear bombs, whatever, and they go kill everything there straight. That's what happens in bactericidal antibiotics. Basically what the antibiotic does is it goes and attacks the cell wall of the bacteria, so the bacteria is completely destroyed. It kills it there and then. On the other hand, let's say it's a more diplomatic country but they still want to go to war. That's what bacteriostatic means. So country A doesn't like country B, but instead of sending soldiers and tanks and planes and bombs, they just block everything from going inside the country, sort of like a sanction. This is what bacteriostatic antibiotics do. What they do is they block very important processes in the bacteria. For example, the bacteria's ability to replicate itself, to multiply itself, the bacteria's ability to make food for itself, the metabolic process inside the bacteria, all this will be halted. So when they can't produce food for themselves, they can't produce energy for themselves, eventually they'll just wither and die away. So this is what bacteriostatic antibiotic and bactericidal antibiotic means. So if an antibiotic can do all this, why can't an antibiotic kill a virus? Let's get to that. Let's use a different example this time. Let's think of bacteria as invaders. Let's say right now we are sitting here and all of a sudden a group of Vikings invaded us. It's very obvious to see who the invaders are. We can look at them, we know they are different, we know that they are fighting, we know that they are killing people around. So it's very easy if, let's say, I were to call Power Rangers to come over and fight them, because it's very obvious who they are going to fight. That's what bacteria are. Bacteria don't hide themselves. They enter the body and the whole body knows who that is. So when we send antibiotics into the body, it's easy for antibiotics to detect these particular bacteria and kill them. And antibiotics will be very, very careful not to attack the body. That means the other cells, other organs in our body will not be affected. On the other hand, viruses are more like spies. Let's say someone sent a spy into our company. We won't know who that is. We won't know what zigzag work they're doing inside. When a certain period of time passes by, all of a sudden the whole company is experiencing loss and things are going missing and food is rotten. We won't know who to blame. We won't know who to to find. And that's the reason, even if you call Power Rangers, Superman, and the entire Justice League over to fight, they won't know who to fight and who to kill. Same thing, an antibiotic sent into the body to fight viruses will not work because the antibiotic will not know who to target. This is mainly because the virus is not walking around, the virus is inside the host cell. It's literally hidden inside the cell. So if you're having a viral fever and you keep eating antibiotics, the first bad thing about it is it's not doing anything. And secondly, it can cause something called antibiotic resistance. What is antibiotic resistance? Every time you go to the clinic and the doctor asks you to take antibiotic, there's one thing they will always say, regardless of what sort of antibiotic it is, what sort of infection you have, but there's one thing they will always say: make sure you complete the course. The reason for this is, if the antibiotic is supposed to be taken for 7 days, you're supposed to take them for 7 days so that it kills all the bacteria inside the body. So let's say now you're having a viral fever and it's day 3 of the fever. Viral fever will usually take about a week to completely resolve itself. So it's day 3 of fever and you start taking antibiotic today. 4 days later, once your fever subsides, you stop taking the antibiotic. Now, all you have done is you have trained whatever lingering tiny bacteria inside your body to be stronger. You just gave them sort of like a hell week course. Now, since there are no more antibiotic around to kill them, now they already understand what the antibiotic can do and what they should do to prepare themselves. So the next time some bacteria infects you and they go inside your body, they will learn that, oh, this body has information on how to fight this particular antibiotic. Even if you have the slightest infection and you go to the hospital, the doctors will be giving you antibiotics, but it won't be working anymore because now the bacteria inside your body are smarter already. So they have to give you a stronger antibiotic. And if that doesn't work, they have to give you an even stronger antibiotic. The problem with this is we have a very limited number of antibiotics. No new antibiotic has been found recently. The antibiotics we are using is still the same old antibiotics, just that we have modified it to become a bit stronger and a bit better, that's all. So if you simply take antibiotics and you start training the bacteria in your body to be stronger than every antibiotic out there, there will come a time when your infection will not have any medication to cure you. And that's the reason why you should not simply take antibiotics or simply buy antibiotics over the counter. We know there are certain pharmacies which do sell antibiotic over the counter. Over the counter meaning you don't need a prescription. This is a very, very bad practice, and in the long run, it's only gonna hurt us as a species. If you found this video valuable and you learned any one thing in this video, the only thing I ask you is to share this video with your friends or family members. Spread the knowledge. And until the next informative video, in anything you do, do your best and be the best version of yourself. Bye-bye.